Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Debra Hester, author of My Backyard Garden, a memoir of how love conquers grief. Debra, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, I am.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I think it's most important to try to set up a way to organize all your thoughts, because they're going to come at times when you plan for them to come, and then there are going to be times when you're not planning for them to come, but you're going to want to capture it. I think thoughts and ideas that belong in your book, and even things that don't belong in your book, because later you may find out that those things are very, very useful.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Deciding on the publisher that is right for you and what you're trying to do. It's almost like finding the right pair of shoes, what fits. I self-published, so it was real important to me that I found a publisher where I could have full control. It was a book, this project was about self-expression. So I had to make sure that they allowed that. So I really wanted to be like immersed in the whole experience, the editing, the layout, the design. So that was the perfect publisher for me. Someone may not want to be involved in all that, so they need to just find that right fit. And then the other thing with self-publishing, I think it's real important to find a publisher where you think the platform is easy to use, that you can get the kind of remote access, and then for me, cost was a factor because I was self-publishing, so I just had so much money that I could invest initially. So their add-on services, I could get started, publish the book or get started, and then add on additional services as I went along and made more money before the book was completely finished.
Well, speaking of money, I'd like to talk a little bit about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
I think for me, it was joining an organization. It was an Association for Deaf Education and Counseling. And I wanted to join an organization, a community that cares about what I was writing about. And I wanted them to be experts or potentially the audience and make sure that they could validate that my subject was important, that, my approach was helpful, that the way I was writing, what I had written was interesting and useful. So that organization, a community out there that's specifically an audience for you.
And tell us a little bit more about that strategy and how it helped with your launch.
Well, for one, it gave me confidence
Yeah.
that I was on the right track. And sometimes when you're self-published, when you're picking a topic that you may not necessarily be an expert at, and mine was more around a personal story, a personal experience, then the experts validated it for me. And it gave me more confidence. It gave me an immediate group of people that I could set up my emailing list with and all of that. So.
Well, I think that's a great strategy, too, because it's like a built-in audience, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a built-in audience. There are people who are rooting for you, who can give you advice, who can recommend your book. So I found that most helpful.
Now, was this a local chapter that you joined?
No, actually, I joined the national chapter, Association for Deaf Education and Counseling. I ended up going to their annual conference, and I actually bought a booth. And I spent time talking to people, selling my book, getting testimonials or recommendations. I had sort of like a little sign-in book, and I said, just leave me a note, encouragement, wish me well, advice, or whatever. And I would go back through that book, and then I would tell them to leave their email address and sign up. And actually, this year, I'm going to speak and have one of their sessions, or be a speaker in one of their sessions at this year's annual conference. I submitted a proposal, and it was accepted.
Excellent. So are you utilizing this at all for anything on the back end, any type of counseling or any type of coaching?
Say that again?
Are you also utilizing the book for your business, for coaching, for counseling, anything like that?
Yes. My book is sort of the
Perfect.
beginning. I have a podcast, and it's about building the brand. So eventually I would like to do grief support coaching and offer grief support workshops in person and webinars. And honestly, I didn't begin that way.
Mm-hmm.
It
It just
sort of
evolves,
ended up
doesn't
that
it?
Yeah, and that's why I tell everybody at the beginning to write down all your thoughts. Because when I first started, like thoughts were like dropping out of the sky. I mean, every morning I'd wake up and I'd just have like this downpour of thoughts. So some things I would write down that went in the book, but other things ended up being ideas that happened later.
Well, and that's exactly
Overuse
why I
later.
asked you that, because I had a feeling that was the direction that you're going in with that. And it's just the funny thing is the book just is, it really is the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? It gets started, and then you realize all these different things that you can utilize with it, and also promote yourself, the back end, the monetization. Just amazing how many things can come out of that little book.
Right. And that's why I tell everybody, don't have a million pieces of paper like I did that you had to come together and bring them together. Just start out right. Start out organized as much as you can, because it changes, but, start out organized. If you have to have a book for every segment or every thought or every category, find some way to sort of keep it in place.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
That is such a hard question. Favorite book that you learned from? I really, there's one that comes to mind by Iyanla Vanzant, and it's called The Value in the Valley. And I think it resonated so much with me because I was a single parent, and a lot of times I found myself in dilemmas that, were a little bit depressing, or they seemed like they were hard. And her book taught me to look for what is positive regardless of where you are. There is something there for you to learn. So there's value in the valley.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Okay, it's a quote from a movie. And there's a book, but I didn't read the book. I watched the movie. And it's The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
Love that movie.
And I do too. I love that movie. I can watch it over and over, and I can't say that about every movie. But the hotel manager said, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it's not yet the end. I love that.
Excellent. Yeah, because everything evolves, right? It'll eventually get sorted out.
Yeah, it will.
Well, Debra, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
At my website at www.mothersbackyard.org.
Well, Debra, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. This was very exciting. So thank you so much.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.